Humans aren't born out of laying around on their asses. We've been born out of conquering a world. We're the dominant species. We built all this. We're powerful, and we're beautiful, and we're ready to build the next level of civilization in God's plan. But you must stop bowing to those who want to make you a victim. You must become the victor. If you love God and you want to build a pro-human future, then you are an enemy of the New World Order and Satanism. They want us shut down because we have the Spirit. I'm jacked into the source. I know the secret, and I want to see you empowered. But you have to believe in yourself first. This is the truth, and everyone knows it. The soldiers shall not prosper.
The 98th Emperor of the Holy Britannian Empire.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you know what's really interesting? In my last video I did talking about Canada and their new anti-American unelected prime minister, there seems to be an ability with these bureaucrats and these politicians that they try to match Trump's energy. Trump has what is known as strongman energy. So somebody who is not going to be pushed around, somebody that is extremely solid. And I'm sure that you've known people like this in your life, but somebody that is just very unmovable. Donald Trump has been the only leader in the world that has been pushing towards peace between Ukraine and Russia. Everyone else, Canada, Germany, France, UK, Australia, everyone has been pushing towards no peace. Peace will be when Ukraine totally destroys and conquers Russia, or Putin surrenders unconditionally, and then we're going to set all these terms, and Ukraine will become part of NATO, and we're going to have troops there all the time, and delusion. Absolute madness and delusion. This entire situation with Ukraine and Russia, and some people will disagree, no. Russia was not the 100% instigator of this. The 100% instigator of this was NATO. After World War II, there were promises made that NATO will not move 1 inch eastward. That is, you want to talk about a ceasefire deal being broken 26 times, according to Zelensky. How many times has NATO and the Western powers broken their deal with Russia by continuing to move ever eastward? So now we're at a point with Ukraine where NATO was flirting with the idea of making Ukraine part of NATO. That is why we are here. We're also here because before the war started in full, there was a peace deal in the works that Boris Johnson, then Prime Minister of the UK, I think he was Prime Minister. I'm not sure if he had resigned yet or if it was just slightly before. But around that time, he went to Ukraine to kill a deal between Ukraine and Russia. So, do I believe that Russia is totally at fault here? No. I think that what they've done is evil. I think that what they've done is bad. But to say that they were completely guilty and that we are completely innocent is the type of rhetoric that stupid people digest because it's all that their brains can handle. I'm going to assume that you're not that dumb, that you realize what propaganda is, and you realize that our side does propaganda too. They've been doing it against Trump for years. And the idea is that America, well, we do things wrong, but this is one thing that we didn't do wrong, and this is just Russia unprovoked going into Ukraine. I don't believe that for a second. However, all these other countries, that being said, have been pushing for war with Russia, using Ukrainian lives as a proxy to fight Russia, to weaken Russia. Donald Trump is the only one that's pushing for peace. The only one that's pushing for peace. The only one. And by the way, I know some people are going to say, well, no, Trump's not the only one. You as an American, of course you'd say that. You're a Trump supporter. What about France and the UK? They were trying to create their own ceasefire deal. Did you actually listen? Did you actually listen to what their ceasefire deal entailed? Did you actually listen to it? Did you listen to Keir Starmer? Like, do you understand? These people are retards. They were trying to match Trump's energy. And like always, Trump has the superpower. When they try to match his energy, that's not their natural state, and they end up looking like absolute retards. And that's exactly what happened. Oh, we in the UK are going to be trying to engage a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. And in order for that to happen, Russia must agree that we, the Western nations, have boots on the ground in Ukraine. That they must disarm, like going through the list of demands for a ceasefire would never work, because their perception of what a victory is not the same as Trump's. Trump's idea is, okay, let's get the fighting to stop, and then we'll work out different things to create a lasting peace. And I think that Donald Trump has the best idea. Zelensky said, oh, Russia, broke their treaty 26 times. The difference, if the United States had business assets in Ukraine, not military, business assets, I don't think that Putin would do a thing. Not military at all, but just business. Mining operations. I don't think Putin would do anything. Because whether you want to admit it or not, America is more important than Ukraine. We have the teeth to fight back in full against Russia. Ukraine does not, and I know that people say, but no, Ukraine can fight against Russia. Look what they've done. I want you to understand something. Ukraine has done nothing. I really want you to stop and think. Ukraine has done nothing. They have been supplied with intelligence, coordinates, drones, javelins, military equipment, money. They have been pumped up, injected, steroided out of their gills. And yet they are at you want to say a stalemate? They've lost. This is not a stalemate. They've lost. They've lost a lot of land. And the land that they have, it's not good. And by the way, they've lost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. So, I just wanted to put that into perspective before we start this, that Donald Trump is the only one that has been pushing for an end to this war. The only one. It's not Trudeau. It's not these other people. It's only Donald Trump.
Has now agreed to a U.S. plan for an immediate 30-day ceasefire with Russia. Secretary of State Marco Rubio leading the negotiations, but of course the question tonight, will Vladimir Putin agree to this? President Trump saying he plans to talk to Putin, and the president says he would invite President Zelensky back to the White House now. ABC's chief international correspondent James Longman in Ukraine tonight.
Is this the first step towards peace in Ukraine? After 8 hours of talks, Ukraine has agreed to a U.S. proposal for an interim 30-day ceasefire.
We'll take this offer now to the Russians, and we hope that they'll say yes to peace. The ball is now in their court.
The talks in Saudi Arabia called for immediate negotiations to end this war, the first U.S.-Ukraine meeting since that Oval Office blow-up. Trump today hopeful.
Ukraine has agreed to it, and hopefully Russia will agree to it. We're going to meet with them later on today and tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to wipe out a deal.
A proposed prisoner exchange, the return of forcibly displaced Ukrainian children, and a commitment to signing the minerals deal, all part of the discussion. The US also announcing they'll lift the pause on military aid and intelligence sharing. That may have already had an impact on the battlefield. Videos circulating online show Russian forces planting flags in areas Ukraine once controlled. But all this hinges on Russia's willingness to accept and reciprocate on the terms of the deal. And that is far from certain. Putin has consistently ruled out a ceasefire, the administration hoping to change his mind.
Before you can negotiate, you have to stop shooting at each other. That's the commitment we got today from the Ukrainian side, their willingness to do that.
And you notice the media, like, Putin has declined ceasefires in the past. Well, yeah. Because the people that were so-called negotiating the ceasefires were incompetent retards. We're talking about weak men. We're talking about left-wing, soy-faced, sort of, cucked out of their mind virtue signalers that didn't really want to have a ceasefire. So if I were in Putin's position, I would have denied all of them as well. But if it's Trump, who I know wants peace, who I know is serious and kind of crazy, who may just decide, you know what, Russia? You know what? This war's ending another way. We're bombing Moscow. I think that Putin will come to the table, and I think this will be done. That's my hope. Because I, too, am hoping for peace. I, too, am hoping for peace. And I hope that Donald Trump can get this done. But it's incredible to me to watch Donald Trump's superpower. And his superpower is that he gets these people to try to match his energy. He tries to get them to raise themselves up to match his energy. And that's not who they are. That they don't understand, they're not comfortable with it. So they get real big real quick. And then they realize, oh shit, what am I doing? Like the premier in Canada, threatening to shut off certain areas of the United States, depriving American citizens of energy in winter. That guy probably in his head goes, well, I'm gonna match Trump's bravado. But that guy backtracked on that in a couple of days because holy shit. These people try to match Trump's energy and then they fail so spectacularly, and Trump can just come in and basically pick up the pieces. I do think it's some sort of superpower because all Trump has to do is exist and be himself. And these people, they put a rake down, they look at it, and then they step on it and smack themselves in the face. It's like Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons, except he's putting the rakes down, walking backwards, and then walking into all of them. These people are just pathetic. They are genuinely pathetic. Trump has this presence. He has this energy. And people think, I need to match that. I need to match that. But these are all cucked out of their mind, weak, liberal, feminized men. So they don't know what to do. They don't know how to be a man. They don't know how to be a leader. They're incompetent. They're weak. A lot of them were put in there unelected just because they happened to say the right thing at the right time to the right people. They can kiss the right ass. Mark Carney is a perfect example. Nobody elected him. My point here is that without Donald Trump, this deal wouldn't even be a consideration. You would just have war going on and on and on for years, and that's more Ukrainians dead, that's more Russians dead. Instead, wouldn't it be nice if we put an end to this, and the way that we solidified this relationship and Putin has reached out, that we, the United States, could do business in Russia, that we have mineral rights deals in both Ukraine and Russia? That way, you know that nobody is going to have any sort of issue. If you're doing business in Russia, they're making money. You have business in Ukraine from the U.S. and they're making money. And everyone's making money. The American people are getting money. They're getting these resources. Everyone wins. The way that everyone loses is the wars continue on like these European powers wanted. America keeps pumping money and weaponry into it. Russia loses, Ukraine loses, US loses, everyone loses, more people die, more wasted money. I would much rather have an alternative where we could be extracting more minerals. We could be doing better business. People could be getting more wealthy, more access to chips and lithium and other cobalt and all these other minerals that apparently these places have. We could be extracting that. We could be having a relationship with both of these countries, one that is not based on military but on business, on economics, one that is based on bringing people in on their mutually beneficial cooperation. Not one nation submitting, because that's what these people do. These people, I bet Piers Morgan, I bet Keir Starmer, I bet you he's that type of guy that once he makes a speech like, "Oh, Putin, we're going to show you what for," I bet you he goes back into his room. I bet you he takes off all his clothes. I bet you puts a ball gag in his mouth and some dominatrix comes out and spanks him with like a leather whip. He just seems like that type of guy to me. Now, I'm going to pretend to be a tough guy, but in the end, he's getting pegged. He seems like a pegger, you know. He seems like a pegger. That's what I'll say. That's my new word for the day. These people seem like peggers. They seem like they're the type of guy that wants to talk tough, and then they go in the room and they put on the ball gag and the leash, and then they assume the position, and the dominatrix comes in, you know, with the leather, you know, with the leather riding crop, and just smacks their ass, and that's their, you know, lick mommy's feet. These cut out of their mind, weak, pathetic men that play tough. I would bet you anything. I would bet you anything he's a ball gagger. I would bet you anything. You know, say what you want about Trump. I don't think Trump is a pegger. I don't think he's a ball gagger. Not at all. Damn.
Obviously now
How's
that will
that
be
for an
delivered to
image?
the Russians.
Hours before today's meeting, Ukraine launched the biggest drone attack of this war so far, reaching all the way to Moscow. Reaching all the way to Moscow, injuring at least 20 people. And tonight comes word that Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, is headed to Russia to try to get Putin to agree to the ceasefire.
And the big question here tonight, David, what does Vladimir Putin make of all this? Donald Trump says his good relationship with Russia means he's the man to get a deal. Well, that will be severely tested. And Volodymyr Zelensky, will he be back at the White House for a perhaps more cordial meeting second?
Well, that probably wasn't the best thing to do as you're in the middle of negotiations to have one of the biggest drone attacks that you've ever had, but it'll be interesting to see what happens next. Yeah, I think this will be a fascinating chapter in history. I'm hoping that peace wins out. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for today's video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.